Hey y'all, this video is for Larry and anybody else who wants to watch it. So when I was over there buying this guitar, or picking this guitar up from you, he had like 87 of them, and he said he didn't know chords yet. So let's do this. They're chord shapes because you can move the chords all over the neck, depending on where your root note is, and use these shapes to get a D up here and everything else. But I'm not going into all that. We're going to oversimplify the hell out of this because there's a lot of theory that goes behind this stuff. I'm not trying to get in all that. So we're going to go through the C, A, G, E, and D chords first. That'll make more sense if you get more in depth on it because of the cage system, but we're not doing that right now. But I'll also show you the C add 9, the F, the abbreviated F, and a couple couple simple songs to get the hang of switching chords. But first, you've got the C shape. That is your first finger on the first fret. Well, you can use whatever fingers you want, but I do it with my first finger on the first fret of the B string, middle finger on the second fret of the D string, and ring finger on the third fret of the A string. You do not play the low E. That's the C chord, or C shape. A is going to be either way you want to do it. If you can fit all three of your fingers on this second fret of the D, G, and B strings, you do not play the E. Your A is your root note. That's where you start from. That's the A chord. Or you can just bar it, however you want. A minor, to make a major into a minor, you just drop the third one fret. If that makes no sense, that's okay. A is right here. A minor is, I change my fingers up with this. The D and the G string, you're fretting the second fret, and the B string is the first fret instead of the second on this one. That's A minor. A minor. You can hear the switch to the minor. Now G, first finger, second fret of the A string, second finger, third fret of the E string, and then your ring finger and pinky are on the third fret of the B and E strings. As typically, anything you do with this E string, you also do with this E string, because it's not about the strings, it's about the notes you're playing. That's G. And make sure everything rings out. E is an open E string. Your middle finger and your ring finger on the second fret of the A and D string, and your pointer finger is going to be on the first fret of the G string, and you play all the strings. To do E minor, you have to drop the third, but that's your first finger is on the third, so just raise it. That's E minor. You can hear it the same as A minor. Now D is kind of a pain. You don't play the E or the A strings. D is your root note. Finger positioning is a little strenuous. I use my first finger on the second fret of the G string, my middle finger on the second fret of the E string. In this case, you don't do to this E string what you do to this E string. You're only fingering this one. And your ring finger on the third fret of the B string. Make sure they all ring out. And then it's from the D string down. Okay? That's caged. Now the F, you bar the first fret. Your middle finger is on the second fret of the G string. Your ring and pinky go on the third fret of the A and D. That's the F chord. And getting that bar is a pain. So the abbreviated F, you're putting your first finger on the first fret of the B string just like you did A minor, and not playing the E. Sounds the same, it just doesn't have that. See what I'm saying? That'll come in handy in chord switches when you're switching from A minor to, what did I do? That didn't sound right. A minor to C to F, G. So you get that barring your finger's already there for everything else. Now, the C add 9, the rock and roll C. Skid Row, Poison, a lot of different bands have used the C add 9 for their chord switches between G and C. Every Rose Has Its Thorn. Skid Row, is that 18 to Life? Those are, the 18 to Life is a bit of, and it gets a little bit more technical. If you want just a simple progression to get into the changes, chord changes, Patience is a good one, Guns N' Roses. It's just a C, G, E minor, and a D. However, the D, there's a little bit that goes into it. It's putting your pinky down for this part. You put your pinky down and you're picking up so that string rings out. And then letting off, raising your middle finger, and then putting it back down. So it's C, G, C, E minor, C, G, D. That's going to be in a lot of progressions. The A minor, C, G, C, G is one of the most popular progressions there are. It just depends on how you do it. C and G is exceedingly popular, but the A minor, actually the C, G, and D is also an extremely popular one. What is that? Seriously? You're going to sharpen your... Shale's truck, we're just here. So, what was I talking about? Knocking on Heaven's Door, that's the one with C, G, and D. Anyway, none of that actually matters. If you want to know what your third and your fifth is, that's the triad, that's how the chords are made. That's the major and minor scale. The major scale, you start with your root note, so we're going to go with, let's go with A. That's a lot easier. A. Not in major, but it doesn't matter. Let's go with C for major. So we got A, B, C. Okay. So the progression for major scale is whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, or whole, 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 half. So the progression for major is, first off, 1 fret is a half step, 2 frets is a whole step. So to go to play the C major chord progression, or the C major scale, it is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So you've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's why we did C, because it's all whole notes. A minor is the same thing. A minor and C major are, what do I call that? They're the same notes. If you're playing an A minor, you're also playing in C major. You're just targeting different notes in the scale. But, anyway, C major, you got your root note, your second, your third. So C, D, E is going to be in the C major chord. F, G is going to be there. That's your fifth. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. So if we want to do C minor, instead of doing up here, we'll drop that third. And instead it's D and D sharp instead of D and E. That's what we were doing with the A, switching it to minor, is dropping the third. So, if you, that's the next C, here and here. That's how you get your octaves, by the way. go down 2 strings and up 2 frets on these strings. Once you get to the B and E string, everything gets screwed up. But for the top 4 strings, that's how it works. Now, the minor scale is slightly different. Let's go to an A. It is whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. So in A minor, your third, not that it would really matter, it's going to be A, B, C. A is your root note. C, and D, E. Kind of similar, huh? And then you're back to your root. Anyway, I can go through the scales later if you want to actually learn the scales. However, if you want to, since you play a lot of metal, if you want to come up with some chord progression that you like the sound of, and say you want to pull out your dime bag special and switch it to metal, then it's just it's easy. You're just playing those power chords instead. And the power chords, this is your minor finger, this is your major finger. So if you're wanting to play, say, I'm going from A minor to C to G. So let's turn the amp on. Might get somewhere now. Okay. There we go. So instead of A minor, play A. Yeah. This is the A string, so the A power chord would be just an open A, yeah. And then to same with E. But we were doing A, C, G. Now, where it comes in handy knowing what notes are in the scale is what to do from there. See, because I drop back to an F instead of going all the way down to an E. It just sounds better to me. But as long as you know which scale, instead of trying to figure out that don't sound right, that sounds right. Instead of hitting those bad notes in there and trying to figure out where you should go, you'll just know because you know the scales. Yeah. But anyway, it's that easy to be able to switch between the chord progressions. Doing the chord progressions. And the metal. Whatever you want to do. But anyway, other than that, that's pretty much it. If you want to know the scales, hit me up. I'll throw out another video with a lot less stupidity. The only other thing that I wanted to add was just tricks to spice it up. Once you get into everything you're doing with the chord changes, and you come up with these chord progressions. Another thing you can do is just little stuff. just there's simple stuff that you can do to spice every damn thing up and to get your picking down and to get your fingering down. And like Simple Man is, see if you can do it right, stupid. One of those. What are you doing, cat? Simple Man is just a C, but it's instead of going straight to C, you pick the open A, second fret, third fret, and then you're in the C position. And then you come down to 2 strings lower to your G and pick up. Then go down to your B, pick up, and then back down to your G. Then go to a D or a G, except you don't really have to worry about down here because you're not going to be picking those strings. And do the same thing. Then go to an A minor, starting with the A string. Same thing at the first. Then go all the way down to your B. That's where it changes. And instead of going down 2, picking up and going down to 1 and then all that, go back to your B, back to your G, come down to your E, put your pinky on the 3rd fret, and come off. Hope you can see which ones I'm picking. See? And then just... I'm trying to play Patience. Stupid. Anyway, that's the problem with knowing so many songs, you get confused. And then the E string, just open 3rd fret, open 3rd fret, open A. And then right back to it. Anyway, that should be just about everything that I wanted. Stupid switch. Just about everything I wanted to go over. If you have any questions, holler at me. If you want me to do more stuff, holler at me. I can upload occasionally when I get time. But talk to you later, man.